So, welcome everybody. This is the 13th episode of Yanni After Dark. It is not really dark for either of us, but you know what? We'll say it was at some point. Somewhere in the world, it is evening. Um,
Dark somewhere.
it is, yeah. So, everybody, I am super excited about this interview, as I am all of them. But this is a really unique opportunity because this is somebody that I had met a while back, and we kind of were able to reconnect, doing different things as far as streaming goes. In particular, we kind of met through Overwatch. But as always, before I get started, I am going to let uh, them themselves describe, as best a little bit about where they got started and their name and everything. And so I'm going to let Mother Coconuts take it away for a minute.
Thank you very much, John. Well, everybody, my name is Mother Coconuts, and normally I'm known as Monster Hunter World's 14 weapon healer main with the heals for yo feels, potions for yo emotions, and tissues for yo issues. Originally on Twitch, I started about 3-4 years ago on Overwatch, like Jon mentioned, and we met through there. I've kind of built up in a little bit of an audience on Overwatch for about a year, and then I decided to change pace, change games. It's not my scene really, which is perfectly fine, and I jumped into Monster Hunter, and I play a couple of a variety of other games such as Remnant and things. But solidifying my role in Monster Hunter as the healer main is something I've done over the years, and I have educated viewers. I've educated and gotten to meet up with and multi-stream and collaborate with many, many other content creators as well, leading to some super successful hunts and really successful and interesting stories over the years.
Yeah, as I told people a little bit
Thank you.
yesterday, it was oh yeah, yeah. And as always, everybody, I'm going to do shout outs. If you haven't had a chance to follow, I'm going to do shout outs throughout the stream. So be sure to drop a follow to any of the guests we have on here, and definitely check them out. Post interview. Um, yeah, I was telling people the other day it was interesting that when we met, because I think it was in gold at the time, and Overwatch, at the best of times, might not be the most friendly of collective
Right,
communities.
right.
And so I was very tilted, had some really bad games where nothing I did mattered and everybody was flaming me. And we won't go into the vitriol and the toxicity, but use your imagination, or if you've played Overwatch, you don't have to. Um, and I met Mother Coconuts on, I remember it was on Kings Row, and you were in a group with several people, and I can't remember if it was quick play or if it was ranked. Um, but we met, and I was like, I've just had enough. I'm just gonna, run it down, and I joined voice chat because I think I was the only one who wasn't in the group. And you all sent a message. You said, "Hey, it'd be awesome if you joined group. We're having super fun, just chilling out." Like, okay, I'll join. And you all were so friendly. I was like, okay, I'll play main tank. I won't let myself tilt, because I was tilted off the face of the earth from the previous
Mhm.
games. And afterwards, I dropped you a follow, and I remember just how awesome you were, and how, yeah, it just completely took away my tilt. And that was a really really inspiring thing, because that's, I mean, when you get into a tilt frame of mind, a lot of times, aside from walking away from the keyboard, there's not a whole lot, there's not a whole lot to do. So it immediately, just playing with y'all was a blast. I loved it. And yeah, and it was great to meet you. So, what took you from Overwatch to Monster Hunter? Because they are very, very different games.
First off, thank you even very much for even explaining what the experience was like when I was playing Overwatch. That was honestly the pride and joy of why I played it so much, because I understood that the Overwatch scene and community really isn't the most welcoming or the most kind and contacting. But when it came to what I did in the community, it was just a matter of, hey, at the end of the day, we're all here, we're all together, working our asses off, doing what we can, and coming home after a long day's work. Why would you want to experience anything like that on your video games or during your leisure time, so to speak? So, really honing in on that idea gave me the idea to kind of just continue being a human being, understanding myself. Because once I understood that it's just a game and we're just going through it together, that helped me explain that to other people who were playing Overwatch also, who, like in your case, said you were tilted at the time, and after just having one of the homies just hanging in there, being just a decent human being, that brought everybody down to that level that I was trying to broadcast, and we were all on the same wavelength. So that really changed things up. But to change things up to why I moved over to Monster Hunter, once the reason I love Monster Hunter so much at first is also because I've been invested in the franchise ever since 2004. The first Monster Hunter came out on PlayStation 2 in 2004, and I've been playing it ever since then. And we're talking about online, playing multiple iterations, different versions, buying the same game that came out on the PSP instead, and it really embedded itself because that game has a special meaning in my place, in my heart of hearts, because that was the first game I ever bought as a child. Kind of like walking into the game store and not having like your parents know, oh, this is Mario, this is popular, this and this. No, I walked into the store, I saw the cover art for Monster Hunter 1 for the PlayStation 2, and I said, I like that, I want it. So that moment was a very defining moment of my gaming career, so to speak, and it really was history after that, so to speak. And I've been able to follow the franchise growing up throughout its longevity up to the point it is now. Sadly, I wasn't able to partake in many of the Nintendo era style games because the company did shift its focus to the mobile platform, which Nintendo was pretty much king at the time, so it makes sense.
Hmm.
But I didn't have it the luxury of some of those devices, so I really followed it through the PlayStation life cycle. I followed it and watched it on the Nintendo life cycle, getting to play it minimally. But once I heard it was coming back to PS4 and then evidently on PC also, that's right when I was streaming for about a year, and I was looking to jump into something else because I just needed a change of scenery, something that resonated with me more, like starting wise on the same wavelength. And Monster Hunter and the community itself that I've been a part of for so long really was up that alley. It was quite fantastic.
Now,
It just
when
really worked out.
oh yeah, no, and by the way, I have never downloaded a game multiple times for a bunch of different systems. Haha, nobody look up my Skyrim profile. And yeah, I no, I completely understand. There's certain games that really just resonate with you. And by the way, real quick, for anybody new, I appreciate the follows, everybody. I don't like to divert myself and attention too much from the streamer, so I do see the follows. I appreciate them sincerely. So don't think I'm missing those. But anyways, going, with kind of what you were talking about, building a community, was it difficult building a community back? Did you have to start from scratch, or did a lot of people carry over from Overwatch, or how did that kind of work out?
I had to start from scratch pretty
Okay.
much. A lot of the people that played Overwatch kind of were interested in Monster Hunter, so I've had a few people jump over into Monster Hunter, which was nice. It was refreshing, and I already knew some people, so that was great. And in terms of community wise, though, that's two completely different beings. It was just one that was just being built off of just being a DPS widow who was just chilling out, to now this Monster Hunter world where this guy is like, yo, this is just how I am, and I don't have to change a thing. It's not going against the grain, so to speak, in terms of how the game is being played or people interact with each other in the game. That's just people are just genuinely nice in the Monster Hunter community. So it was a lot easier for me to resonate and reach out and be on that same wavelength with other viewers in the Monster Hunter community, because there was essentially nothing to change, and I felt like it was a lot easier for me personally to build an audience on Monster Hunter than it was on Overwatch.
And I've had a very similar experience with Remnant. And what's interesting is um, there's so in Overwatch or in PvP games, you have, of course, the competition. This might seem rhetorical, but you have the competition between yourself and other people. In games like Monster Hunter, which is more PvE, and I don't know, I mean, Monster Hunter might have a PvP element. I'm not as familiar with Monster Hunter. Um,
Mhm.
but in Remnant, aside from shooting your buddy in the back, there's not really a PvP element. Um, it's exclusively like PvE. But it is interesting, the duality of the mindsets, having where I'm competing against just myself to try to get this high score, to try to get this new boss down, or whether it's a raid boss or a new world boss in Remnant. And then in Overwatch, where you're fighting against what seems to be an increasingly shrinking pool of players the higher up you go. Do you typically enjoy more games where the challenge is more internal, if you will? So like Dark Souls, look at the old classics like Super Ghouls and Ghost, um, ActRaiser. I don't know how familiar people are with games like that, but do you enjoy more of the games where it's a self challenge?
I do absolutely enjoy games where it's a self challenge, and I completely understand exactly where you're coming from. Dark Souls, one of my favorite series ever as well. Monster Hunter, right up the alley with theirs, my personal favorite series. And Remnant actually resonates with me and the Monster Hunter community. A lot of people in the Monster Hunter community enjoy Remnant because of the fact that there's really no real PvP element, because Monster Hunter doesn't have one either. It's all
Okay.
PvE and it's all internalized, and the only form of quote unquote competition is when you guys compare stats or you see how quickly someone can go through a monster, defeat a monster. And much like a boss, it's like being able to take out Shroud in the beginning of Remnant within 30 seconds, and other people take 2 minutes, 3 minutes to take the boss down. So that's the quote unquote competition of it. But you guys are still working together. So if you put those people together who can clear the boss in 30 seconds with someone who clears it in 2, 3 minutes, all of a sudden you have this new element where people are learning and doing much better than they normally were. So it's a win-win in that situation. And that's why Monster Hunter works so well with me, because people see how I play the game, and I don't have to say anything. And I never ever tell my viewers how to quote unquote play the game, but they learn and they ask questions. And when I see that kind of interest from my viewers or other people in general, I enjoy teaching and having that teaching element in Monster Hunter, and thus it makes you enjoy the game more. So that same goes for Dark Souls for me, for Remnant, for Monster Hunter, where you can be the best you can be, and either someone who isn't as experienced will see that and learn from it, or you will see someone better and learn from that. And that's how the whole comparison, it's a beautiful trickle down system. Once you realize that that's how these kind of games kind of work in essence, it makes it a lot more enjoyable, a lot easier to connect with other people, because it's a group effort. Once you realize it's a group effort, and so my personal thing is, if you ask a question, that's opening the door. That's the gate. That's, I am invested. I am willing to accept any type of input or knowledge you have about something, or even criticisms if I ask for it. And let's compare notes and move forward. Like that's what that means to me, and that's why I enjoy these games so much.
And with Monster Hunter, again, I'm not as familiar with it, but
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the I want to say this actually first. I think one of the defining hallmarks of a good streamer is, everybody has their opinion of what makes somebody a good or great streamer. But I think, as in respect to yourself, as we're talking about this, I now have an interest in picking up Monster Hunter. And I think that
Excellent.
hearing people who are passionate about something, um, and hearing people talk about it and enjoy themselves playing the game, that level of engagement makes you want to, like if you see a streamer playing a game, because there's an entertainer element, but there's also an advertiser element. In which case, when a streamer's playing a game, they're showcasing the game for other people. We see this a lot with,
Correct.
when the higher level, or well, higher viewer count streamers get access to betas and alphas, which never in any way, shape, or form should you feel bad about. That is advertising on the developer's part, and they absolutely
Correct.
are, one, they're within their right to do so, and number two, why would they not? If they could
Right.
reach
No,
an audience of,
exactly.
300,000 people collectively immediately, that's what they're going to do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very interesting when you, like, I think one of the things that has kind of swept me away from Overwatch wasn't just how I felt about the game, it was watching how other people felt about the game. Whereas in the Remnant community,
Oh yeah.
I see how excited people get, when they play the game or when they explain the game, and it's fun to showcase and learn stuff. When you I have, and I'm sure at some point it will come up. I'm sure. Different personalities will, mesh, and different personalities will clash sometimes. But I have not seen where somebody said, "This is the strat I use," and somebody said, "Well, that strat is dumb." I've seen it in Overwatch plenty of
Mm-hmm.
times, but I have not experienced it. And with Monster Hunter, is there a level in the community of both versatility, and you're talking about that level of education that you impart to your guest? Um, do you find that the community overall is extremely and what I mean by that is not just your personal community, but the overall community of Monster Hunter are very much about education and helping people, and not just strictly sticking to a meta, and and that's the only way to do things. Is there a lot more versatility in what people are willing to do and explore and educate others on?
I really, really like this question because my situation in particular, as a content creator in on Twitch for Monster Hunter, I kind of see both sides of the coin.
Okay.
Yes, to some extent, there is a group of individuals who only run what is quote unquote meta at the current time, and they're always excited to learn and go into it more. And normally that has its own level of negative connotation. But in this case, in the Monster Hunter community, that's very, very rare. I actually enjoy conversing and getting to know the people who are very excited and understand the meta because that's a- amazing, valuable information that I'm the middleman in the situation. Now, here's my explanation to answer the question.
Okay.
Yes, there are people who are very into the meta, but they don't bring a level of toxicity that's normally associated with that. In this term, I'm using the word meta as a good thing. And then there's individuals who casually play the game, understand it, like to enjoy what the game has to offer, but may not be looking for, in particular, the quote unquote best strat or the quote unquote best armor and weapon set to use. Now, the beauty about Monster Hunter is that I can have that meta level player join my hunt and the inexperienced or the person who doesn't want to play on that level join my hunt as well. And at the same time, we're all literally meshing wavelengths and doing the same quest and the same goal. So that's the beauty about it. We're not going up against each other, which could lead to Overwatch levels of communication and toxicity because your performance is going to affect how the outcome is. And that still happens in Monster Hunter, but to some degree, because now you have the players who are experienced show what the other players who don't want to go that route it can do. Sometimes that sparks a little bit of joy and say, wow, that was really quick. How did you do that? Then that kind of question. And again, this leads to the question and answering mentality that the community has. If you demonstrate something, especially live, right next to a person, because the hunts are only 4 people to a group, so if you demonstrate something to a person, actions speak louder than words. As it will show these people, hey, wow, this is a different way to play the game. I never thought about that. I'm glad you did because now this is an enjoyable experience. That's why when people hunt with me, it's so different because I'm playing a healer and I'm dedicating a whole subclass in Monster Hunter and bringing it into the mainstream. So people who are normally very skilled and successful in the game all of a sudden are doing way more damage because I'm buffing their damages, I'm buffing their healing, the defense. They don't have to worry about anything. Sometimes you can see that as a negative connotation because you're really not going to learn as much. I see both sides where if you're struggling with a monster, having someone coming in and kind of buffing you up and keeping you alive lets you fight the monster longer so you can evidently learn those strategies. And that's always been the situation on my content. And the Monster Hunter community welcomes it because they all show and share strats and we talk about it and discuss it. And it really does
Oh.
take and depend on how I, as the content creator, handle this. When people say things in chat, they're like, oh, this, and this isn't working. What do you think? I like that because it can kind of go back and forth for a little bit until some sort of understanding happens. And you don't really get to see too many people saying, well, what you're doing is pretty dumb. And even when you do, it's it's met with either understanding that hey it's not for everybody and then you move on, or sometimes the best option is just silence at that point because there's no point in getting into an argument with a certain individual over something like that. And I believe the consensus is the general community understands that as well. So not only will the content creator not quote unquote get in it with a viewer, neither will the chat because they're vibing off of the energy and again the wavelength that the content creator is putting out there. And that's the kind of community that I've been promoting, and it really works hand in hand. I feel like the community is a wonderful place that really is a mirror reflection almost, if you will, of what content you have out there. If you go to any one of our content creators on Monster Hunter, you'll see X, Y, and Z viewer in there. Guaranteed, if you go to 5 or 6 other content creators, you will find that same individual in there. So if you're lurking and watching other content creators, it's beautiful to see how we all really do truly share this viewer pool.
Yeah, and I think, and you touched upon something that, I think a lot of people, when they come to Twitch, and I don't, it's one of those things where I don't want to pass judgment because these are essentially what we are doing. We're using, so Twitch is the platform, but we are each our own individual. If you want to look at this from, I know people hate to look at things, from a capitalist standpoint a lot of times, but this, is each group is their own like small little business in a way, right? So this
Mm-hmm.
offers this
Mm-hmm.
over here, this offers this over here. But I think what's interesting is, I remember doing an interview um, when I was a journalist, and I interviewed a couple that owned a bed and breakfast, and I asked them, what was the area missing a lot of, and they said, and I was kind of shocked by their answer because I hadn't started doing this for very long, and they said, well, it's missing more bed and breakfast. And that kind of shocked me because I thought about it. I was like, well, isn't that competition? They said, well, just because you stay at theirs doesn't mean you can't stay at ours at a later date. And if you
Mm-hmm.
stay at theirs and somebody, wants to stay at another bed and breakfast at a later point, or they are touring, and a lot of times people stay in these historic bed and breakfasts because they have an interest in a town's or city's history. They said, well,
Mm-hmm.
we'll get pointed in another direction, and those places will share restaurants, and we have a restaurant here and all this stuff. And I realized that that is a wonderful mindset to have, especially in these communities that promote, hey, I stream Remnant, so does this person. Go see this person. They offer something completely different, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
just, even if they're playing the same game, they offer a different, sort of subjects that they might want to talk about, life philosophy, personality, everything. So you could have people playing the same game and offer something unique. And I think that that
Yep.
is a wonderful mindset that you all have. And again, I'm not as familiar with the Monster Hunter community, so this is learning something new for me. But I think that's an absolutely wonderful mindset to have, that, people aren't taking viewers or communities, we're sharing them. And that is a very, it's not only is it a good mindset I think to have in streaming, I think it's a very healthy mindset to have outside of it as well. um,
Agreed.
but yeah.
Absolutely agreed. Oh my goodness. And the Monster Hunter community definitely reflects that. And for me personally, one of the reasons I started streaming is to have the ability to express that exact feeling and learn and bring that into my outside work. It was really a night and day shift in my personality and mentality, way of thinking about life and approaching problems when I started content creation. And you nailed it on the head when you said that it's once you have that kind of mentality and you bring it out into the outside world, it really resonates and it makes sense. And it's people helping people out from a content creator's perspective grow. And honestly, I wouldn't be where I am today and going in the direction I am today if it wasn't for these individuals in this community who are so welcoming and decided to give you a chance and speak to you, give you the time of day, so to speak, especially from a smaller content creator's perspective. It truly is humbling. And we all know what each other can do within the game. Like you said, it's the same game, but a different experience because of the content creator. So we all understand each other enough to say, hey, if you're looking for a charge blade play, you're going for Rainy, you're going for Cups. If you're going for just variety hunting in general, you have people like Sephrond who do like dunks on monsters, which are like trick shots and trick kills. We have a whole sub genre and culture within the Monster Hunter community that really Twitch cannot, you wouldn't have enough space on Twitch to display all the different niche things that you can do in Monster Hunter, that when you go to a channel to watch that content you want to see and then stay for the added bonus of a wonderful personality.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
well said.
yeah, and I concur with everything that you said. As far, again, I think that that carries over not just to the Monster Hunter community, but communities in general. Because one of the things that, and part of why I do this as well, is not just to, it's always awesome to get to meet new people, meet new streamers, get to know about them, but also to bring their experiences to people on this channel who want to stream or perhaps are new to streaming, because it can be overwhelming. When you first do this, what do you do? Do you do this? And there's the added pressure of, it being, a swarm of social media. And one of the things that I think is very enlightening is, how often I concur with so many of the wonderful perspectives that people like yourself have as far as, again, that healthy mentality to have. And, it's interesting because I would also say to people who are new to streaming, if you think that you can't play the same game or be a part of the same community and not have something different to offer, well, if that were the case, we wouldn't have sports because they're all playing
Yep.
the same game, but every single one of them has something different to offer, and it's not always the team with the best individual, as far as statistics go, the best individual players that win. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sorry if you're a Patriots fan, but I mean, I'm a football fan more than anything. And one of the things that I think of more, is how many times, I mean, the Patriots got beat by the Giants twice in the Super Bowl, and the Giants were the worst team going in both times. And um,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, there's always something you can give as a streamer that somebody else doesn't bring. And
Yep.
again, as Coconutz has said, um, it's also, you always, I think it's crucial too to stay humbled and what other people, bring to your community, and to, remember that. And that's what I personally try to do. And you said that you do it as well, and I would encourage everybody to do that. Don't lose sight of, the more your viewer count goes up, or if it stays the same or whatever, don't lose sight of who you truly are, because at the end of the day, whether you make it as a streamer or you don't make it as a streamer, you want to carry over that mindset and the lessons and principles to other aspects of life, because they do carry over. Just because you hit that go live button and then you hit, the in stream button, doesn't mean that that's where the life lessons begin and end. So
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely an awesome thing that we share that. Well, you kind of touched on it a little bit. What was your first experience like? Because you said you've been streaming for several years, and I think that you're one of the few people we've had on that has been streaming for several years. What got you into streaming in the first place? What brought you to Twitch?
So I've been playing games since I was a child, and I have nothing but fond memories growing up of having the Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, Nintendo DS, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy SP, Game Boy Color, everything under the sun, every console, everything. My parents did a fantastic job of raising a gamer child. And when you start growing up, you the internet became a thing, and honestly it's such a weird timing thing. So the internet became a thing, and then as I'm growing up, I'm learning more about it, and I'm googling and searching, and then gamers who stream, or not even stream, just gamers who make money playing video games. And I was like, whoa, that's the little kid in me is like, yo, that's my dream job. Like, I need to do this in life. And as I and it's so weird how it ended up happening. As I grew up, obviously things change. You're in school, you're in high school, you're getting ready to go to college or whatever you want to do. Trade school in my specific story, I went to medical assisting school, and that escaped me. That dream, that passion. I still played games all the time, but the idea that streaming to potentially make a career out of it never was a thing. It escaped me, and it's such a sad thing because when these type of passions come, instill themselves in you, and then leave, they don't leave overnight. It takes gradually, a little piece of it escapes you every day until it's diminished, and you really don't realize because you're so, I guess, invested in other things. And when that happens, that's how a passion dies. That's how a creative process doesn't move forward. A friend of mine, who at the time we both were playing games a lot together, and we've been gaming for years, we've known each other for years, he goes, hey, want to take a crack at streaming? Because we always like to try new things. We started longboarding together. We learned how to like hook up really good car audio to our cars. We modified our cars all the time because I'm very big into the car community. I've owned and done security, and I've owned a various amount of vehicles, and I really like wrenching and working on my own stuff. Then we got
Awesome.
into computers. So the computer essentially is the same idea as a car, except it's tiny and lets you do a lot of other stuff. So we were like, you know what? Let's give streaming a shot. And there's this one clip on my channel where I first started streaming because my channel is about 5 or 6 years old, I believe, but I didn't stream for about a year or two. And it's just me playing Dark Souls 3 because that is my main game. And I'm just sitting there with the light on, horrible camera quality, horrible everything, microphone, you name it. But I'm just sitting there and not speaking and just playing. But I can recall that moment. That is my favorite clip because that's what started it all. After a while, I moved up in the medical field, and that's where the blur that I was talking about earlier, or that disassociation, happened because I'm like, all right, real life, I gotta work at the hospital, blah blah blah, I'm doing IT stuff. After about 6 months of that, I found myself miserable, depressed. I didn't understand. I was doing good at work. I'm physically doing well. I'm doing well for myself. I'm making great money. I'm starting to put my life together, but I wasn't happy. And once I realized that, how upset I was, how sad I was, how angry I was at myself, because at that moment, I think I was 25 or so, 24, 25. I'm 27 now. And it was literally rock bottom. And then when I got home, I looked at my computer again and I had this one screen. I have this one picture somewhere in my phone. It's just a little tiny desk, computer screen, a small camera, a microphone without any type of power for it because it was a XLR microphone with no focus, right? So I had no audio processing at all. So I had to hold the microphone up to my face. I remember that. And at that moment I said, "You know what? Why have I been living my life trying to please all those around me, saying, "Oh, I have to go to college to become a doctor. I want to be a cardiologist, a physician assistant." That that wasn't me. That just wasn't me. Was I good at what I did in the medical field? Yes. Am I still doing it in the medical field with a different mindset that I'm still here to help people because that's what I truly enjoy? Absolutely. But will I feel satisfied 10, 20, 30 years from now? No. At that moment, I stepped out of that position. I started working as a medical assistant again in the hospital setting. I downgraded because that was less stressful. I could keep consistency paycheck wise there. And I said, you know what? Let me dedicate the rest of my time to content creation. And from that point forward, I started playing Overwatch every night. I started learning how to stream. I started learning how to not only just put on a show, but be genuine about it. Learn informatics. I love talking to people. I already have been doing it for 6, 7 years because I've been in the medical field this long. It's it's now translating everything that I enjoy doing in another profession because that's what I thought I enjoyed. But then when I realized that it was the people bonding, the social experiences, the interactions, the education part of it, even of the medical field, I brought that with me to streaming. And that has been my personal biggest key to success in the content creation world. You bring a level of hospitality and bedside manner that you can only see in a hospital setting to content creation, which is something that they're not they're not there because they're sick. They're there because they want to enjoy. And then all of a sudden that's a recipe for success in my opinion. And I don't regret at all a single way that my life unfolded, because if I didn't go through these trials and tribulations, if I didn't feel like I hit rock bottom and I said, you know what, this really isn't for me, and I just started content creation, I probably would still have a lingering thought in my head saying, oh, well, what if I continued going to PA school and becoming a doctor or PA and doing that? No, now I can confidently say I'm where I belong, and I work and hone every day of my being to honing the craft of content creation and expanding the role to take it to the next level, so to speak. So thank you. That was a very good question.
Well, I have again, this is also one of the first times that we've had been able to have an in-depth conversation, and I'll tell you that I actually have a very similar background. I was actually going to go to med school myself, and I was headed along that route, and I stopped it once I got really sick, and I thought about what was important, and I went back and got an English degree. Because
Wow.
I really wanted to be a writer, and and then I was, of course, everybody, the running, joke was that everybody would say is, what coffee shop are you going to work at? And I but the thing about it is that when you sometimes you think to yourself, okay, well, I'm sacrificing this or I'm sacrificing this. If you have a will and desire to succeed and you can weather through, because it can be, an emotional turmoil to fail or to fall down. But if you can weather through those emotional storms, you can succeed. And you can find a way to make something work. I was told that I would be, that I would have trouble finding a job, and so what I did was I personally, and I would tell other students this, I didn't simply get the English degree. I worked for the college itself. I became essentially a tutor. I worked for every academic journal I could to get editorial background. And then when I got out, I started asking around and was able to find people that were hiring for journalism. And I used, nobody really cared about the degree so much. I used my background to get in to do these articles for these living magazines, and I didn't have a background in journalism at all. But what I did is I took what I knew and applied it to a similar field, and to my knowledge this day, and I'm not doing this to be some type of braggadocio, but to my knowledge this day, everybody loved what I did. And again, I didn't have a journalism background. I had just an English writing degree, well, writing literature, and but I completely did a 180 in what I was doing. But I found myself to be happier, less stressed, and at the end of the day, I have seen very, very successful, very, very miserable people. And
Yes.
what is ultimately, what is life if you can't, if you can't enjoy it? I think that is, a life lesson that a lot of people kind of have to come to terms with.
Experience.
Yeah,
Hmm.
is what I'm doing, you know, making, truly making me happy. And it's not to say that, you know, you should, quit your job. I mean, but it is to say
Right.
that if you have a job and you're not enjoying it, um, start, you know, don't start, uh, you know, yesterday. Start today. Don't start tomorrow. Start today, working towards, another goal. You can keep that job. You don't have to, quit immediately. You can keep that job, but you can start planning and working towards other things. I've seen numerous people do that. You'll find numerous streamers that do that, that say that, okay, well, I have my job. I'm working towards going full time. Okay, I decided to leave my job, and now I'm going to make that plunge into full time. And so, yeah, you don't. If you're not happy with something at all, um, you know, life is too short to be miserable all of it. So, you definitely there's something to be said about enjoying what you do. And I think that that's awesome that you took a step back, you evaluated the situation, and you decided to pursue what what made you happy. Because I can't fathom, from what I've seen in the streams, I can't fathom you being in a place where you weren't happy. But if you were, I'm extremely happy that you decided to get out of that situation, because I think that you're a fantastic
Thank
streamer.
you.
And one of the things that you mentioned um, is, you were talking about that you're not necessarily treating people when they come to a stream. And yes, we're not doctors, we're not treating people, but I do think that something that streams do is, this is the world, and we won't go into it, but I mean, everybody with access to a news channel or a Twitter account, I mean, you can see what's going on in the world right now and how
Yep.
atrocious so much
Yep.
of it is. And just like all forms of entertainment, we can't escape everything that's going on in the outside world, but I think it's very prevalent the more that I've spent around not just my community, but other streamers and their communities. People go to those streams, um, you know, to to when I say get away, they go as a form of escapism in terms of entertainment. No different than somebody would pick up Lord of the Rings and start reading it because they want to take the journey into Middle Earth and they don't want to be concerned with what's going on in the outside world. So while we don't treat, diagnose, or anything like that, we do provide a lot of streamers. Actually, I would say almost all of them provide communities where people can gather with like-minded
Mm-hmm.
individuals and take a break from everything else that's going on. And I think that that is
Mm-hmm.
invaluable. Taking a break, resting, stopping and reevaluating, I think all those things are invaluable. And so while cuz I always have people cuz we're close in age. I'm 30. Um and when you get to be a certain, when you're 16 trying to stream, people just, who don't understand it will chalk it up a lot of times. They'll say, okay, that's just that's a summer job that he's doing. He'll grow out of that. She'll grow out of that. But when you get to be our age and people say, oh, you especially if you want to become a full-time streamer, they're like, oh, you want to do what now? Now, what exactly is it
Mm-hmm.
that you do for people? And you're always kind of met with that question. And I'm gonna swing it back over to you because I definitely want to get your thoughts. What is it that you think ultimately streamers you know bring? And I'm not looking for a justification of what we do. We're not necessarily trying to justify it, but explain to people that do have a genuine curiosity, what is it that streamers bring? Because I mean, this is in my estimation, this is the future of, we could talk about Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime.
Conflict.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the wave of content. So, especially,
Excellent question.
creative content. Yeah. So,
Excellent question. And what do streamers bring to the table for the genuine mass public? So we're not talking about other content creators watching other content creators. That's because actually that actually works perfectly. We're viewers at the end of the day. We want to see something that we enjoy. And to quote, not 100%, but another content creator who's in the business of showing and kind of revealing the curtain a little bit to let you guys understand. Harris Heller, he's he's kind of like a streaming business aficionado where he understands the project of it. He has a background in the music industry and growing music products like that, so he gets that. And he explained something to in one of his videos, and he said, content in general, no matter what you think of it, so you as in you, Yawn, or me, Mother Coconuts, content is a subjective thing. We can see something, whether it's on Twitch, YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, whatever it may be, we can see something and say, wow, that was really good. Or, wow, that was really bad. But when you say that, it's more of along the lines of, wow, that content wasn't for me. And I think that's so important to realize and to tie it into a point you made earlier. When viewers come in and they see what's going on in the world and they join, yes, it's a form of escapism, but I make it such a point in my content to point out and say, when you are dealing with everything in the world, you need a place to, yes, escape is one word for it, but I view it as take a time out. Let your mindset really take a few steps down from what's bothering you so you can have clarity. And when you have clarity, you can make more educated decisions. And that's a very big principle in the medical field. When something's going on or where you're stressed, you need to stop, think, act, response. And part of that is stopping. And that's the hardest and the most important thing to do. And that's something the general public doesn't do, but that's something that's commonly practiced in the medical field. So I bring that again, that kind of content to my streams. And I always make a point to mention, hey, if you had a bad day, I'm sorry. I hope it gets better. But more importantly, let this content be the place for you to go to unwind a bit so you can go back into the world with a fresh, better state of mind to make those better educated decisions to continue having or get out of that slump of a bad day. And to directly answer that question that you said earlier, what content, what value do we have as content creators? Like, what do people expect? And that's completely up to you. There is something and someone that does something specifically niche or not for someone out there. So if I don't like something, quote unquote, content wise in particular, yes, that's not for me, but I have to realize that is value content for someone else. Look at popular content creators nowadays. It could be anybody. Those people that have 20,000 plus viewers, 200,000 plus viewers, there's a reason why 100 something people watch these people because the people find value in their content. Whether you disagree or agree with me, the whole idea that valuable to somebody is there. And once you understand that as a content creator, and then once you understand that as a viewer, even to help bring the point home of what value can we bring, clearly by the statistics that you see now, there is something for everyone. Just like in Netflix, for the most part, just like in Hulu, there is content. There's a show, there is a movie, there is a soap opera. There's something for someone out there. And now it's getting mainstream enough and to the point that for Twitch streaming and streaming in general, live content, you're basically interacting with your TV show. That's what people are starting to understand. It to help bring it home to people that have never seen Twitch. You're interacting with the TV show that you're watching. You're literally seeing somebody on the screen and you're typing to them and they're responding to you for the most part because sometimes that's not even the content that people go to those channels for because there's value in their content to someone else. You have content creators that don't type. I'm sorry, that don't speak at all to their viewers. They type back in the comments only, no audio on from a microphone. They have that one's Canta per me, fantastic individual. Some people go, I don't understand how can he have such a large viewership count without saying a word to the audience and no camera, no nothing, because people find value in that content. So that is what makes this live content world so special. I really love that question. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would give an analogy from my own personal experience. One of the a little bit of a history lesson for those who are familiar with poker, specifically Texas Hold'em. The reason that there was such a boom is because once they started to broadcast the World Series of Poker on TV, you had it was the only sport. Now there are some people that want to debate the definition of sport, but I'm sorry, there is a an RNG factor to it, but there is as much uh, studious, methodical thought process going into poker as there is in chess. Studying body language and everything, and and the poker boom came about because Chris Moneymaker won the World Series of Poker. Now, for those of you who don't know who that is, well, that's the thing. He was a regular guy. I think he was an accountant. And he wasn't a poker professional, and he was up against Sammy Farha, who was a poker professional, and he won, and Chris won. And so what ended up becoming the mindset and the tried and true fashion of entertainment was that this was a sport where you could play against the people that you looked up to, or you had you saw them as a pro, or however you saw them, and you could play against those people. I couldn't go on the court and play with Michael Jordan, but I could go and play against Phil Hellmuth if I could buy into the tournament. And so one of the things about it that Mother Coconuts touched on about is that as far as the content creators, this is TV you can interact with. And sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes individuals don't interact with as much, or they don't interact with it at all. But for those of you kind of on the outside looking in a little bit, I would say even where you think about what content creators do is that the new wave of content creators, whether it be on YouTube or whether it be live streaming or whatever, they are actually able through, even if it's not live, through chats and discords and Twitter and everything else, they're able to communicate with people. And I think that that's what's really interesting. I can go now on Twitter and they don't have to answer, they don't have to respond, but there's a chance that I could go interact with, you know, a politician, a celebrity, an author, whoever, and we didn't have that, you know, when I was a child. There was, you didn't, you weren't going to meet, your idol in a random chat log somewhere, and
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying, I'm not saying we're idols, but what I'm saying is there just wasn't a chance to meet and connect with people to the level that there is now. And that content creation is an evolution of that connection that people used to not previously have with each other. So, it's no different than a lot of other stuff has kind of transpired over the years. But I think that that's the perfect way. It's TV you can interact with, and I think that's the perfect way to look at it. Um, so I want to ask you, going kind of forward, what are your plans for your stream and your community going forward?
Moving forward, I've been playing a lot more variety content. I've been playing a lot more Remnant. I've been playing a few other games on the side, just kind of to broaden the horizon, so to speak. So I think I've solidified myself in the Monster Hunter community, and that is forever will be my main game and the game that started it all, so to speak. I'm not even going to count Overwatch. Monster Hunter was where it really blossomed for me and helped me grow and understand who and what I am as a content creation uh, individual on Twitch as a platform. So moving forward, it's time to expand. It's time to broaden the horizon, make a push. And part of that is, again, the big picture is content creation full time. Little picture goals, we're going to hit partnership. That's what I'm going for. I've been going for that for a few months now, pursuing that. Once we reach that, that's just the beginning of the road that allows and opens opportunities for networking with actual businesses, companies. I've worked with Capcom so far once for their Hunters Helper series, which I was
Awesome.
featured alongside a panel of other individuals for the community for helping out new hunters, and that fits that. You see what I was mean to tie it into the beginning of the interview. You see what I mean by I didn't have to change who I am in
Right.
the Monster Hunter community. It just turned into an opportunity of, hey, Mother Coconuts, would you like to be featured on Hunter Helper for Capcom? I said, absolutely. How would you like me to proceed? What's your protocol? Well, we do one of two ways. You either join a session of all new hunters and you assist them in SOSs, or you just do SOS quests in general. I said, oh, that's perfect. I do that anyway. I didn't have to change anything. It literally was a normal stream for me, but now I have the staging of the company that made the game that I play and I enjoy. That was one of my first interactions between Capcom and just Mother Coconuts. So that's the kind of stuff I want to breed and get into more and really breathe life into, kind of solidifying and making a presence within bigger and bigger communities. And it's just a matter of networking, connectivity. That's something that's all on me. And that's the beautiful thing about content creation. You get what you put into it. This is not a job for the faint of heart where you just, oh, I'm just doing it for a little bit. You can do it to have fun and hang out with friends, but if you're trying to take it to the next level, streaming will give back to you what you put into it. And like you said with poker, there is a level of RNG in there as well. I do see that. I do feel that. If you can max out your luck stat, hopefully good things will happen. But it's that's the goal. That's my next step for the community, so to speak. It's networking, growth, and once we hit partnership, it is seeking to collaborate with other entities for the good of not only myself as a business person, as a Twitch individual and content creator, but for the community as well. These are things that I want to include people in, and I do my best to be transparent so everyone knows what's going on. I wanted to take a few weeks off before, and I did that because I wasn't feeling great. So I was transparent. I explained that, and I want to continue that level of communication with my community, because if I can do it for my patients at work very easily, why should I water that down and not allow my viewers to experience that level of communication with another human being, especially in such a commonplace like this?
I think that the fact that you mentioned a keyword there, transparency, and I think that a lot of streamers, especially people who are starting out, have a hesitancy. And I'm not talking about, giving, you have to be so open to give somebody your like personal address, but they
I was
had,
gonna say,
they,
here's my social
yeah,
security number.
yeah, y'all want a copy of my birth certificate? You could, so, but, you don't have to be, tell everybody everything in one setting, but there is a level of transparency that your community, and I know people use the word viewer, and sometimes I myself will use it, but really, I've said it from day one. Your community becomes another family. They
Hmm.
become people that you become very close with. You get emotionally attached and invested into them.
Yep.
Um, because you want to know, like, I mean, when, I know somebody that has been having like mental health issues, and then I don't hear from them. I don't mean to bring the mood down, but I don't hear from them for a week or two. I'm going to go out and message them because I get worried about stuff like that. And you start to care about people. Um, but
Hmm.
they also care about you, and don't think that a lot of times I think streamers who are starting out, they feel that there is a level,
Alone.
yeah, alone. There's a level of detachment. There's
Yep.
it's more of a solitary journey. And trust me when I tell you that your community, and you will have people coming out. That's with everything, but that's with anything in life. You're gonna have, you're gonna have those friends you're gonna know for 20 years, and you're gonna have those friends you're gonna meet who you're gonna know for 6 months. It might be a wonderful 6 months, and then they're gonna move away. That that is
Hmm.
life, and that's the way it is in a stream community as well. But offering transparency, saying, "Hey, I don't feel good today," because the people that really care and that are going to be a core part of your community are going to understand that. They're going to understand when you want to take breaks because, I didn't realize this getting into it, but this is mentally taxing. It can be,
Absolutely. Oh my God. I
yeah,
cannot stress that enough.
yeah, it can be very mentally taxing. And even if you're a very candid, this is who I am, and I think that Mother Coconuts definitely fits that description. I try my best to fit that description. There's some bigger streamers that fit that description, but whether you do that or there's some people, and I won't name names, but there's some people who, you know, clearly tell you that they are putting on a persona for the entertainment value. However you approach it, it is mentally and even sometimes physically exhausting to be in front of a camera and be in a chair for 12, 13 hours sometimes. And
Hmm.
and I definitely think that transparency, being open with people, saying, "Hey, listen, I need a day off." I would encourage everybody to find that level in themselves to be that open with your community. And from a personal standpoint, I am a part of many discords, and I have never seen a streamer or a situation where a streamer said, "Hey guys, I need a break," and everybody was, you know, collectively dogpiling on them, saying, "Hey, no, 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 you owe us this." I've never seen it. So I'm not saying
Same.
I'm not saying it has not happened, but
Right.
I have
That's
not.
something you don't see as often.
Yeah, I have not seen it enough to warrant not being transparent. you know, and again,
Hmm.
that coincides with another thing. Your health, both mental and physical, you always have to take care of yourself. One of the things that I learned that it never occurred to me, but when I started doing cognitive behavioral therapy, we were talking about, my therapist and I were talking about the stigma of mental health, and my therapist said, "I have a therapist. Most therapists have a therapist because when you spend all day talking about some of the most serious things that can come up in a person's life, you need somebody to talk to." And so don't
Hmm.
underestimate how important your mental well-being and your physical well-being is doing this. I think it's very crucial. Um, and I didn't know if you had anything to add about that, like how you take care of your own physical, mental well-being. If there's anything, I always ask people if there's any type of rituals they do before streaming, whether it's stretching or go outside, run, and I just always like to ask if there's anything that streamers do.
I've noticed that it's become a habit for me when I have a very short window. I work 8+ hours a day in a
Hmm.
hospital setting, and then I have about an hour to 2 hours before I start streaming for the night for another 3 to 4 to 5 hours a night. And I can only do it so much. But a ritual I've noticed that's become a micro thing, and it's woven into my drive home. It's just listening to certain styles of music that get me ready for it. I listen to a lot of EDM, a lot of music from video games in general, as well remixes, and I find pleasure in finding these songs on my way home or listening to them to kind of get me in the mindset of I left the hospital job. It's time for my real job. Like it's that warm up period, that 1 to 2 hours of warm up period as I get home and meet my girlfriend, eat some dinner with her, get to see how her day was, and then just go into the room and that's it. Let's go. Because a lot of my day is wake up, go to work, come home, shower, stream, bedtime, do it all over again. And
Right.
these moments where the mental stretch I do beforehand of driving home and listening to music, or the days off I have and spending them with Caitlin to get away from everything. Like I needed the break. Like during my 2 weeks off, I didn't touch any social media. I didn't touch any computers. I didn't even I wasn't even on Discord for a bit. And it was the support of the community, to tie it into what you said earlier, that made it feel okay. And this is the first time that I've done such a long break where I wasn't on vacation, but I was home, but I wasn't just there. And it was okay. It was okay. And that's such a reassuring feeling that I can't implore enough how important it is to do it when you need it. And that, again, to touch base to something we've tied into before, the level of transparency has such a huge impact in that. And it's pretty good feeling to experience it. Noticing it is one part, and then understanding it and cherishing it is another, and that's a whole other level of enjoyment when it comes to that. So that's like, kind of like the pre-routine stuff. Sometimes if I have enough time, I'll get on in my car and do something on my car. I'll get on my motorcycle and go around for a little bit. That helps a lot too, to kind of clear the mind and really focus on what you're doing right now. So when you get back in, like I said, fresh mindset, fresh mentality, better mood, let's go. It's good decision making time.
And now that you said that, I have to add that have you heard of the angry video game nerd? Have you heard of?
I have.
Okay, so you know he had a somebody made a video game with him as the main character. And
Correct.
yes, the soundtrack as far as EDM goes is amazing. It's a really really good soundtrack. If you have not had a chance to listen to it,
I actually haven't, and I have. I think I'm gonna have to look that up after this. Then
yeah,
I got something. I got something to listen to now.
I'm gonna start. You're now gonna get DMs from me that it's gonna be random video game soundtracks. But I will say
Please,
on that
yes.
note of Souls-like games, one of my favorite soundtracks is Bloodborne. And for those of you who don't know, Bloodborne, the entire orchestra recorded it in an old church to get the acoustics. So the whole soundtrack is performed in a 1800s church that had been up for a while. And yeah, and they got specific acoustics for it. So I don't know. I always find stuff like that fascinating, like how they get certain audio and stuff. Um, but still, me personally, so I'm gonna have to ask you now. I'll go ahead and I'll give mine first. Um, favorite game soundtrack of all time? Mine personally is, and I know I've always said that I love the Bloodborne soundtrack. Mine personally though, going old school, probably Chrono Trigger. Probably my favorite soundtrack of all time. But what is yours?
Mega Man X Boomerang Kuwanger. That theme just that was my theme growing up as a kid. I don't know why. It just stuck with me, resonated, and I listened to it all the time. And so like even when I was before DMCA really ruined everything for everyone on Twitch, I listened to a lot of just remixes of Boomerang Kuwanger's theme from Mega Man X. It was one of my first games I remember even playing growing up.
Yeah, yeah, damn DMCA. I always think of when I think of stuff like that, I think of not Mega Man, but DMCA. I think of South Park, and they're like, thanks to you listening to the soundtrack for free, so and so, the CEO won't be able to buy their tiger sharks a goldfish tank or whatever. Like I was like, oh,
Yes.
like damn it. Um, but no, you know what's funny is I love the Mega Man soundtracks, but I always I heard those electronic you know orchestrated songs. I was like, oh, okay, I wonder what this would be like to play guitar. Insanely freaking hard. That's the answer. If you try to play some of those
Hmm.
songs on guitar, you're like, oh, okay, this is a whole nother level of metal. Amber
Yep.
says, mine is Remnant from the Ashes, AC Origins, and AC Odyssey. I can't remember off the top of my head, I'll be completely honest, of Origins, but Assassin's Creed Odyssey does have an amazing soundtrack. That's an amazing game, actually. Um, okay, so I guess with that being said, I don't know. This is a part of the interview where I ask. I don't know if you have any major events coming up, any type of charity streams, or any 24-hour subathons you're going to be doing, or just anything that you want to talk about.
In general, I don't have any charity streams coming up yet, but Monster Hunter just released its Elatrion, which is one of the toughest monsters in the series, and we're dating back to Monster Hunter Tri on the Nintendo Wii era. It came out on Thursday officially, and it's been a couple of days. And there's a lot of people, and this is just general knowledge from what I've seen. A lot of people are struggling with it because it's a fight that takes you out of your comfort zone. And the game has been played for so long, and I'm talking about World specifically. The game has been played for so long. The game's been out for about 2 years. That this monster is the first one that forces you to not do that because it literally has like a hard stop in the fight for people that just play that way. So people are finding it very difficult to relearn new strategies and adapt. And now such an important time for content creators because we're educating everybody. All right, we get your frustration, but this is what the developers do. This is actually Monster Hunter. The game, in my opinion, Monster Hunter World just started on Thursday because they officially released something that completely turns you upside down and says if you've been playing this game and you got all comfortable and you're like, oh, this is the only way to play the game, you don't need all these other elements and all these other extra factors in the game. Well, now that is time for people who've been playing the franchise for a long time to step up and teach people who are new to the franchise that love it to keep the passion, because you're going to lose a lot of people, Capcom, if people like us don't step up and say, hey, it's okay, this is how the game is, let me help, let me teach you. I'm going to be doing a larger stream on Sunday. It's going to be on PC and PS4, Monster Hunter World, and we're going to be looking at taking down this bad boy for fun the whole stream.
What time on Sunday?
I'm either gonna be starting up very early in the morning, like your 8 9 a.m., or I'll start up in the afternoon and I'm gonna go on for quite a while. I'm gonna try to at least do 8 to 10 hours. If I can manage a 12 hour, if I'm not tired from all the events I'm doing today, I'll do 6 hours PC, 6 hours PS4. But it will be split PC and PS4. So if you guys are ever interested in learning what Monster Hunter is, what it's about, or how the game even processes, yes, I'll be playing on a high level on Sunday, but I'm always free to open and asking questions. And if you ever get into the game, we have a Discord, we have a YouTube channel where everyone kind of understands, and I explain some very beginner principles to help solidify a good foundation so you can grow in the game and get your money's worth because you paid for it after all. And I'll be probably playing the PC version for a little bit with Meadow and Phoenix. And then when I jump on PS4, I may not have a plan to be doing collaboration, but it's still a lot of fun and I enjoy it. So thank you.
If
Thank
you
you for having me here.
Oh, no problem. If you would like, if you want to put a link to your Discord in the I have to give you perms. You can send it to me in a DM, but we can post it. So if anybody has an interest in learning about the game, joining the Discord, and getting information, they'd be able to do so.
Excellent. That sounds like a plan to me.
Um,
I'll send one over your way right now, actually.
okay.
Oh, and thank you.
And with that being said, okay. Let's see. And with that being said, as always, as we're winding things down, so you said that you're not going to be streaming today,
Correct.
but Was there anybody that you would want to raid or host? We can send everybody over their way.
Let me take a quick peek here. One second, fixing up that message.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's see here.
Yeah, yeah, I know so well. I sounded like a car salesman advertisement in the Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
Yes. When is it?
Yeah, Sunday.
Okay. See here. We have here a buddy of mine. I actually just found out today he does speed runs on Monster Hunter,
Oh, awesome.
and he plays on PC, and he plays a few weapons. And right now he's actually taking on that monster I'll be taking on tomorrow.
Okay,
But his name is Fatalis RX. Let me just drop his name down in the chat.
okay.
He's a good buddy of mine. He stops by time to time, and he's just been nothing but a pleasure. Nothing but a pleasure to hang out with. Let me see here. Here you go. Here's the name. Post it up in your chat.
All right, awesome. And real quick, one last time though, I want to give a shout out to you as well.
Thank you.
Um, and let's see. Hopefully that. Yep, that looks right. Okay. Just kind of catch things up real quick before we end. I of course always want to thank the guests. So Mother Coconuts, thank you. This has been awesome. It was really, really enlightening and elucidating to get the chance to talk with you. And we had talked, a little bit in chats or in game. We really never had a chance to have this type of in-depth conversation. This was awesome. And as always,
I
I am very humbled by how just incredibly gracious, intelligent, and overall how amazing of a human being the people I have on are. So thank you so much for all of that. And yeah, this has been an awesome time. And I will go ahead and tell people that we will be having another interview at 9 p.m. with Impulsive Veins, Remnant Runner, good friend of the stream. So please, if you can keep that time in mind, check it out later on. Um, yeah, for everybody out there, love you all so much. It has been an amazing time. I'll let Mother Coconuts end with the last word, and then we will host Fatalis.
thank you so much for the opportunity. And again, it is truly incredible how professional your interview style is. I want you to know that this interview has been honestly one of the most in depth, not only about me as a content creator, but as a person, a starting up, and advice, a little bit of advice to the community as well, and as to what it's like day in and day out for people like us. Keep this up. This is something special. This is something that I don't think people realize is out there, and when they do, it is going to be extremely enjoyable to watch many of the episodes back to back. Thank you. Keep going. It it really is nice to have someone reach out to me, and I'm glad that we had the opportunity to have had our roots placed in Overwatch and to see us come together again years later. That's something that there's something special there. There's something to be said about that specifically as well. That's how approachable we both have been with each other. So it's very humbling to see someone from the Overwatch days kind of reach out and for us to be able to collaborate like this. So thank you very much for that.
And thank you. Yeah, I appreciate all those kind words, and I am going to definitely keep going with this because I'm having so much fun, but also too, like I said, it's just an amazing experience to get to meet people and our busy schedules and stuff that we might not normally have the chance to sit down and talk. And this is an awesome opportunity for me to get to learn about people and grow as a person and a streamer because I get to learn stuff new every single time. So thank you so much again, buddy. I really really appreciate that. Everybody, please stick around. We're gonna host Fatalis again 9 p.m. Eastern for the interview with Impulsive Veins. We'll be doing an interview and then be running some Remnant afterwards. Please check out Mother Coconuts tomorrow. Drop a follow, please visit. Wonderful, wonderful person, and yeah, and PogChamp at Monster Hunter. So with that being said, love you all. Again, thanks so much for the subs earlier. Thank you for the follows. As I said before, I personally, it always breaks my heart to have to ignore those a little bit simply because I'm trying to give my undivided attention to the streamer. But I did see those, so thank you so much again for the follows. Really appreciate it. Thank you all so much for showing up. You know, again, supporting me is wonderful, but I think in these times it's even more important supporting the guests that come on who take time out of their day. So, love you all so much. Say hi to Fatalis. Stick around a little bit for the raid, and I will catch you all here later this evening. All right. Love you all.
Take care.
And then there we go. All right. And then let me in the stream room.